Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the February 11th, 2026 East Lansing Planning Commission meeting. Mr. Bartley, could you please take roll?
Again, Commissioner Chapin.
Here.
Commissioner Denault.
Here.
Commissioner Hendricks. Commissioner Lapine. Commissioner Overby. Commissioner Putz.
Here.
Commissioner Sevaleski. Vice Chair Wagner.
Here.
Chair Sullivan.
Here.
We have quorum.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Putz,
Second.
seconded by Vice Chair Wagner. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Agenda approved. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the January 28th, 2026 Planning Commission meeting?
Seconded.
Moved by Commissioner Denault, seconded by Commissioner Putz. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Takes us on to item number 2, committee reports. Mr. Bartley and then Commissioner Putz.
Yes. The only committee we have active right now is the Community Development Advisory Board. Commissioner Putz is our representative on that. My understanding is that business is largely finished and the last meeting is tomorrow.
Correct.
That's my update. If Commissioner Putz has anything to add.
No, we meet tomorrow, and hopefully that should round it out. So looking forward to it.
Great. Crushed it, guys. Any comments or questions? All right. Takes us on to item number 3, staff reports. Mr. Bartley?
Thank you. Excuse me. Just a quick report on City Council last week. City Council met last week on the 3rd and approved the special use request for the Sheetz gas station and restaurant and drive-through at 111 East Saginaw. Immediately after that, they enacted an 8-month moratorium on new gas stations or auto service centers. They also scheduled a public hearing for March 3rd for the proposed residential rental restriction overlay district that this commission recently saw at Harvard Cowley, so that'll be on March 3rd. And then looking forward to next week on the 17th, I'll be introducing an ordinance 1559, which is intended to amend our diverse housing requirement. This commission looked at that requirement and had discussions at length this summer, suggesting or recommending City Council take a look at various alternatives pathways to compliance with that diverse housing requirement. The ordinance that we intend to introduce next week would do 2 things. It would establish a fee and lieu program so the applicant could pay a fee instead of providing the diverse housing units on site. And the second item that would be amended would be to allow the transfer of diverse housing credits. We have a mechanism right now where one building in the diverse housing area downtown can send their credits if they exceed the requirement to another project that can receive those and then use those to meet their requirement. The second zoning amendment as part of Ordinance 1559 would allow for that transfer to happen for properties outside of downtown. So that will be, our intent again is to introduce that and refer it back to this planning commission next week. I'm sure there'll be some discussion. This is the first step in the process. The next step would be that you would see it for a public hearing, and then as you know, you'd make a vote recommending action by council. It would go back to council, at which time they schedule their own public hearing, and then they would bring it back for that public hearing and then make a vote on whether or not to approve the ordinance amendment. So that's coming up next week on council's agenda, the introduction of that. That's my report.
Great. Thank you. Any questions? All right, moving right along. Up next is item number 4, commissioner announcements. This is also your time to disclose any conflicts of interest on any items in the agenda. Seeing no announcements, that takes us on to item number 5, communications from citizens. For the written communications, I did see, I think it was 3 letters of support for item 6.1. Didn't miss anything else, did I?
Nope, that's
Okay.
correct.
All right, that takes us on to verbal from the audience. We ask that you keep your comments limited to 5 minutes. Identify yourself on a card up there, and if you're here tonight to speak to tonight's public hearing, item 6.1, the rezoning on Grove, we ask that you save your comments for that time if possible. That being said, is there any members of the public that wish to come forward and address the Planning Commission? Okay. We do have a handful of cards up here. I will read those during the public hearing. Takes us on to tonight's public hearing. Item 6.1, a public hearing by the Planning Commission to receive comments regarding Ordinance 1562, a request from Hagan Group LLC to conditionally rezone 743, 755, and 765 Grove Street from R2 Medium Density Single Family Residential District to RM32 City Center Multiple Family Residential District for 743 and 765 Grove Street to be used as multifamily dwelling units, licensed for 4 unrelated or a family. That was a lot, Mr. Bartley.
Yes, it was. For a relatively straightforward rezoning request, as straightforward as conditional rezoning requests tend to be. So the request here, as you mentioned, is a conditional request at Grove Street, just north of Bircham, south of Library Lane. You've seen a very recent, or a very similar request recently. In January of last year, City Council approved a conditional rezoning of these parcels from R2 to RM32 for a residential building, a 14-unit, 48-bedroom building that the applicant has since decided that their preference would be to maintain the 3 houses that are currently on these properties. 743, I have them up on the screen right now. 743 is the southernmost, then 755 in the middle, and 765 to the north. Currently, 755 right there in the middle is, and if I mess this up, applicants, please correct me, but I believe that 755 is zoned for 7 people right now. By rezoning these properties from R2 to RM32, that would then facilitate the licensure of 743 to the south and 765 to the north, both to have 4 individuals renting in those houses.
Correct.
Good, thank you. So right now under R2 zoning that can't be done. The applicant is proposing to change to RM32 to allow that. This is a conditional rezoning request, so the intent would be this rezoning request, should you approve it, would be conditioned, or should this body recommend approval and City Council ultimately approve, would be conditioned upon the use of these properties as proposed to stay in their current form as 3 individual houses and then to be licensed individually for 4 for the north and south houses and 7 to continue in the middle house, subject to City Council approval of those licenses. So I guess with that, that's the real short version of a conditional rezoning request. Because there's no proposed changes to the buildings, except for the licensing for individuals to be within. I don't have a site plan for you other than just the survey that's shown on the screen showing the 3 houses. Can I answer any questions or defer to the applicant for questions?
I have a few questions, but I'm going to defer to you all first. Any questions? Okay. So when it was conditionally rezoned previously, was that to RM32? I know what this proposal is doing. Can you walk me through a little bit of why they need to go this route? Is it because of the rental licenses they're requesting? They need it to be conditionally rezoned to RM32, so they're maintaining the structures on the site, and they want to conditionally rezone it from R2 to RM32. So am I missing anything?
So they want to rezone from R2 to RM32 to facilitate the use of these houses as rentals for more than 2 people.
More than 2 people.
Mm-hmm. The previous conditional rezoning was for a 14-unit apartment building. As to the why this is changing, I'd have to defer to the applicant on that. That's their calculation. But as far as the rezoning, yes, the previous rezoning was conditioned R2 to RM32. The zoning does not have to be conditional for the applicants to do what they like. The applicants could do so if it were an unconditional rezoning to RM32. However, the City Council previously did not, didn't entertain a rezoning without conditions. I think that's the reason behind making this one conditional as well.
Got it. So, but we don't have to vote on removing the old conditional rezoning. This essentially would replace that. So that's the process, is we need to vote on this to replace the current conditional rezoning that exists on the properties?
Correct.
Okay.
The current conditional rezoning has not yet gone into effect because we did not execute the conditional rezoning agreement because the applicants are seeking this current conditional rezoning. But if this were turned down, they have still been approved for a conditional rezoning for a 14-unit apartment building. If this were turned down, we could still execute that agreement, and we still would, They would then still have to apply for site plan approval for that 14-unit apartment building, but the zoning is already in place. If this current conditional rezoning request is approved, the previous conditional rezoning request would become moot.
Okay. And just two other brief questions. Any other questions for I? Okay. For the traffic study, are they required to do a traffic study? I didn't see that in there. It'd be kind of odd if they were
No.
required to do a traffic study because they're not, okay. They're not addressing the structures at all.
Correct. If we expected a difference in traffic, we would require one, or we could require one. We consulted the city engineer on this one as well and determined that there wasn't a need for one.
Okay. And then lastly, this is potentially more of a question for the applicant, but do you have a history of the properties, if they were previously used as rentals? Are they licensed as a two-person rental?
Currently, I'm aware of the license for 755 for 7. I'm not aware for the other
Neither of the
properties.
other properties is?
I defer to the applicant on the history.
Okay. Cool. Any other questions? Mr. Chapin? No?
I actually had a
Commissioner
question,
Denault?
but it might be a question better suited for the applicant, but I'll ask it. And maybe you can answer, maybe everyone will answer it. I saw that 755 is not owned by the applicant, it's owned by 755 LLC. And so is that property just being included for a sake of ease because it's sitting in the middle of these other two?
No, the applicant has to have legal control, so they have a purchase agreement for that property. They have control of all three properties enough to be able to be the applicant, as they did before. So we didn't actually require a copy of the purchase agreement because we had that documentation beforehand for the previous rezoning agreements.
I just wanted to make sure we weren't I know we're not making changes to 755 in this proposal, but I was
Yeah.
like, I hope that they have legal right over it. That would be
Yeah,
odd.
it's a good question. Okay, any other questions for Mr. Bartley? Okay, at this point, we're ready for the applicant to come forward.
Good evening, Matt Hagan, 927 East Grand River, one of the owners of Hagan Group LLC. I'm sure you guys are a little tired of hearing about these three parcels probably over the last couple of years, so hopefully this will be the last time. But I guess just a couple things. As far as the question about the site plan, sorry to contradict, but I do think that the site plan that we proposed is kind of part of the process. It's part of, at least eventually it will be, if it's not being considered tonight. Looking at, that we're looking to get them licensed as rentals, have to meet all the codes and whatnot as far as setbacks and ground coverage and parking and all that kind of stuff. And so Kev's to do the site plan to meet all those specs. We're having to add some parking to 743 Grove, and so that parking and the removal of some concrete at 765 Grove, all that stuff is done in order to be compliant with the ordinances as far as ground coverage, parking, so on and so forth. So we aren't asking for any variances. We don't need any variances. Everything will be compliant as far as the code goes. We are, if you take notice on 743, making an effort to collect any water that's being created as runoff. Currently, the driveway there is a gravel drive, and we are putting in concrete. And so at the end of the driveway before the city sidewalk, there's going to be a drain there that's going to collect all that water. Goes into the backyard and into a retention area back in the backyard. So there'll not be any additional runoff from that site because of the additional concrete. So I wanted to make sure that gets pointed out. I think this area is appropriate for the Class 4 licenses. We do need the RM32 rezoning in order to get them to license for 4. Unfortunately, license for 2 just wouldn't make it financially, so that's the reason for going to the RM32 and getting the 4. The area, I think, supports that, having sororities and fraternities, license for 7, so on and so forth. So I think it's compatible with the neighborhood in that regard. I guess I'll just briefly touch on, I hope I'm not shooting myself in the foot here with the 755 Grove situation, but as part of the rezoning for the project that we had proposed in that conditional rezoning, we did have an accepted offer to purchase those as part of this process, it was our understanding that we do not need ownership of those. When we did the rezoning, conditional rezoning on Durand, for our Durand Street apartments, there was a parcel that was included in the conditional rezoning for that project that we did not own, but was included in the parcels that got rezoned. So I guess our reasoning for including it was because it's in the middle of the other, the other two there, obviously, and to get to 743 seemed like it would have to be continuous zoning in that regard. So that was our understanding of the situation. So we do not currently own 755 and would not be purchasing it as part of this rezoning process, just to be clear on that. But from our understanding, the code only require the majority of the owners of the parcels getting rezoned to sign off on the rezoning request, and we own 2 out of the 3, so we were able to sign. So that's the situation in regards to the ownership aspect of things. We're going to do significant amount of improvements to the properties. They are currently both 3-bedroom houses, and in order to get the 4th bedrooms, we're going to do some remodeling and interior remodeling. There's no exterior expansion of the structures, but interior-wise, we're adding a 4th bedroom to each location. They're both going to get new kitchens, bathrooms, mechanical upgrades, all kinds of stuff, windows, so on and so forth. So, we'll be investing quite a bit of money in both. Like I say, adding the parking, containing the water, and I think overall will be much more attractive for that side of the street. Happy to answer any other questions that you may have.
Questions from commissioners? Vice Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Bartlett.
Just a
Sorry.
quick comment to Commissioner Donald's question earlier about ownership, and we just be clarified. And that's fine. If they don't own the property but they're not doing anything to it, as long as it's included, we're going to get the property owner's signature of the 755, so it's covered. But the applicants are really looking at 743 and 765 as far as the scope of their work. We're including 755, but we'll just get the property owner's signature as well. So in other words, they're not going to purchase it, but it's okay to be rezoned as part of this project. We're just going to get the property owner's signature to confirm.
So would we have
But
the
we can
property
move
owner's
ahead.
signature before we vote on this? I mean, how do we know they really are
We
interested?
don't actually need their signature, but we're going to get it.
Okay.
We have a majority of the property owner's signatures right now out of the 3 properties, so we technically can move ahead. I'm still going to request the 3rd property owner's signature to make sure we have that on file.
Okay.
So they,
Yeah, we emailed and asked the question specifically. He said, do we need all 3 owners? And it was looked up, and the code was that you only need the majority. So that was why we were able to proceed.
yeah, so they've met the legal standard, essentially.
Right. It doesn't really impact their property. I mean, they're still going to be licensed for 7, whether it's R2 or RM32. There's no advantage or disadvantage, I guess, for their parcel.
There is an advantage, though, in that that property would then become conforming instead
Yeah.
of non-conforming as it currently is.
Oh, I see.
So does this make sense as far as
Yeah,
the legal
no, that
standing?
does.
They're
Thanks for the
okay.
additional explanation. That's helpful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll be here if you have any other questions.
Oh, I do have a
Oh,
couple.
yeah, sure.
I was defer first.
Sorry.
For the renovations, you talked a bit about the interior renovations. Are there any upgrades or remodeling that's going to take place in the exterior
Oh, yeah.
of the sites? Okay.
743 especially needs a lot. So, yeah, for sure. 765, it's a brick house. It's a nice looking house, so there won't be really too much there that we'll need to do on the exterior. What we are doing in the back, as far as will require some, because it's currently like screened in back porch area, that's going to require some enclosure and so on and so forth, but it's not really visible from the street. So that you won't really see too much of a change from the exterior. 743, on the other hand, will, yeah, quite a bit, quite a bit of stuff. So, like I said, new windows, fascias, porch. I mean, it needs a lot of work.
The aesthetic will generally conform and be similar to the rest of the block and
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about the long-term use? Is this a long-term plan for the site, or is it a temporary?
Yeah, I mean, my brother and I actually were just kind of talking about that earlier tonight. You know, with the amount of money that we're investing, it doesn't make sense for us, obviously, at any time in the near future to do anything different. I mean, it's just, you're putting a lot of money into them. You know, they'll be hopefully making us money at that point, and when you've reinvested that kind of money, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to turn around and try and tear them down and do something different. So.
Okay, thank you. That's all the questions I have. Do you guys have any last questions? Commissioner Denault and the Vice Chair.
That was related, I think, to the question that I had. Was there a reason why y'all decided that you wanted to pursue this instead of what we approved back in January?
Sure. I guess it's kind of a risk and reward type situation, you know. I mean, you've got a lot of different positive and negatives with the project. You know, obviously there's the neighborhood opposition, you have the cost of acquiring the parcel that we don't own, you have the water situation that we have to deal with, cost of construction, so on and forth. You know, a lot of unknowns, I guess, to, yeah, the parking situation, so on and so forth. So there's a lot of hurdles that, you know, you have to cross, and is it a road that you want to go down? We've obviously, invested a substantial amount of money over the last couple of years to try and to get to this point. And is there light at the end of the tunnel, or is this kind of the easier, safer bet? And just, obviously we do rentals all over the city, and it's what we're familiar with, and it's just kind of a risk reward. Do you take a couple $1 million gamble and hope everything works out, or do you play it safe and put some money into them and have a nice return, and neighbors are happy and it's less headaches? So I guess that was kind of ultimately the decision that we came to, is why go down that road and deal with all that? And this is a little simpler, much easier process and project, and so.
And I had one more question, but no, you're fine. We can just, great.
Okay. I was reading the comments from citizens, and someone mentioned issue of parking. Is there any issues of parking that you, with the any of the houses, or?
There'll be 4
there'll
parking
be 4
spots
spots.
at both locations. They'll both be
Yeah.
licensed for 4. Luckily there is some on-street parking for guests during the day and that kind of stuff. I would like, to have as much parking at our locations as possible, as guests and that kind of stuff goes, but this is kind of maxing out a lot of our coverages and some of that stuff, and so we're kind of limited on being able to provide additional guest parking, I guess. But I don't think that there'll be a shortage of parking, because there's a spot for each individual. Certainly there's going to be some guests coming over occasionally, but I don't foresee that as being like a huge parking problem for the neighborhood because of that.
I assume, like most of your rentals, that these will be primarily marketed to students, but are you also thinking about marketing to other types of folks who might be moving to East Lansing, given that they are single-family homes? And there's like a single-family neighborhood just to the north there.
Sure. I mean, we don't necessarily, in our opinion, target a particular group. I mean, we rent to anybody who wants to come and rent them. So, it's hard for us to say who's going to rent them. I mean, given the location and so on and so forth, will probably be students, yeah. But at the same time, I mean, that's not, necessarily, we're not saying yes or no to anybody. If they have the money and want to rent it, then they're welcome to.
Any remaining questions? All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Questions for staff before I open the public hearing? All right, seeing none, at this point, we will open the public hearing for item 6.1. Up first is Tim Brzezowski.
Hello again. Let's see. Tim Brzezowski. We live at 613 Grove Street. And so we're in the neighborhood to the south there. And so very much supportive of this project. I think this is really a great outcome for the neighborhood through, all that we went through before, and also on the property on the east side of Grove. So I think this is a really good outcome. I did want to say that I'm working with Matt and Kevin and Brian Hagan on several projects. So just to be transparent, so you should know that. So I've been working on these 2 projects, looking at what the renovations would be. So I'd be happy to take any questions. I've been through the houses, field measured them. Easily can accommodate 4 people. So at 743, we'll be converting, there's really 2 living rooms, so there's one in the upper level and one in the lower level. So we'll convert the lower level by just adding 1 wall to a bedroom in the lower level. It has great access, so it's direct access, from there. And then at 765, we will be modifying the porch and a part of the dining room to create the additional bedrooms. We'll be adding showers, electrical upgrades, siding, likely for 743 porches will get repaired. So I think it's very easy to accommodate. This would be one of my smaller projects, but very easy to accommodate 4 people in these houses. We first started talking about this, I think, maybe late summer, and then I kind of mentioned it to some of the neighbors that we had this conversation, and just to see whether they would be interested or supportive, and I got really good feedback. And then notified when we got a little more formal, I notified the neighbors in November, kind of keep them posted, and again got very positive feedback. And then before this hearing also sent something to them, and again we got positive feedback. So I haven't heard any negatives from anybody. I think everybody thinks this is a great outcome for our neighborhood and very appropriate use of the properties there. So I'd be happy to answer any architectural questions if you have any, but that's my comments.
Thank you for your comments. It's good context. All right. Up next is Lisa Helminick. Did I get that right?
Yes, Lisa Hominick, 222 Ridge Road. Just very short, and I want to thank the Hagan Group for this wonderful redirection. I'm clearly in support of it, and as are several of our Ridge Road neighbors. So, thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else wish to come forward and address this item? Seeing none, is anyone online in the queue?
There's no one in the queue.
Okay, no one in the queue. All right, at this point, we will close the public hearing for this item. What is the will of the commission?
I would be fine.
Personally comfortable voting on this, given its
I was going to
simplicity.
say, I would be fine waiting until more of our members are here.
Fine waiting too?
Well, while the table's open, I may cough here. I think it's really quiet. I mean, it's been said in the written communications and again from the public, but I think, really we have to acknowledge that Hagan really, I mean, you just don't see people sitting down with neighbors and making some adjustments. And we saw it, last week, I think, with the apartment building, but this is another example of trying to work with the neighborhoods, trying to work with the community, and I think it's worthy of a comment acknowledging that that's what led us to this, is cooperation and consensus and relationships and neighborhoods and the importance of all of those, and I think that's pretty apparent. I don't want to sound too preachy here, but the reality is I think we should acknowledge that. That's clear. So, all right.
Yeah.
Now
Well-
mask
well
up
said.
again.
Mask up. All right, well, did you have any comments?
I don't.
Okay. Seeing no comments, I think we will see this at the next planning commission meeting, what's the date for that, Landon?
February 25th.
All right, February 25th. Thanks, everybody. All right. Since we have no unfinished business, new business, that takes us on to item number 9, commissioner concerns. Any concerns from commissioners? Guys are going easy on me tonight. All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Putz, seconded by Commissioner Denault. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We are adjourned at 7:03 PM.